Hey there guys, Artistic Nick here, thanks for the click. In today's drawing tutorial, I'm going to show you 3 different methods so that you can plot your drawings with accuracy. Hey there guys, welcome to today's art tutorial. It dawned upon me after I'd made my last couple of video tutorials that I'd not actually taught you one of the most fundamental and important aspects of learning how to draw. A lot of you have been asking me over on the community how we freehand, how artists freehand and get things so accurate. And the one thing I would say with that is it's a lot of time and it's a lot of patience. Nobody's born being able to freehand accurately, but what we have is we have some methods that we go through and some ideas that we practice that allow us to then start to see things in more detail and understand proportions better. So I'm going to run through 3 methods today that are going to definitely help you in your quest to be able to draw more accurately. So the first one that I'm going to show you is called the grid method. I'm sure some of you have seen this before. If this is new to you, it's a really important method and it's one that I would suggest that you start with, whether that's drawing anime, whether it's drawing realistic graphite work, or even if you're trying to do a painting or something like that and you're just getting an initial sketch down. This method is really quite simple to understand, and the more you practice this, the better you become at seeing things. So the grid method, I've got my reference image here on the left hand side, and what I've done is I've made a grid, and I've actually, for this drawing, for this example, I've made 3 centimetre by 3 centimetre squares. So I've measured 3 centimetres across the top, 3 across the bottom, join the vertical lines together, and I've done exactly the same down the side. What I've then done is I've translated that onto a piece of paper that I want to do my drawing. I've made exactly the same thing, so I've got a grid which is 3 centimetres by 3 centimetres, and as you can see I've labelled them A to J across the top and 1 to 6 down the side. Now in order to use this method with some certain accuracy, what you have to be good at doing is locating things, and this is something that every artist does, but initially with this idea we're going to use the grid. So if I wanted to try and find where Optimus's head is lying, I can see from my grid that I'm in the horizontal H, so I'm going to come across to H, and I'm also now in line 2, which is the second one down here, and I'm going to find that on mine, and I now know that Optimus's head is sitting in this zone. So I can very quickly sketch out some rough lines, and I can get the antenna coming up. It doesn't quite come all the way up. I'm using a 2H pencil for this just so that you can see the basic shapes that I'm trying to draw. If I was going to be doing this for one of my drawings, I would use a 2H pencil. The problem with the grid method is you are going to have a lot of lines to rub out at the end. If you're using a very dark pencil and you're pressing too hard, it's going to be very difficult to erase those lines, and you're going to be left with patches on your drawing. So that's one of the downsides to this. So again, if I'm going to come and try and find this point here on Optimus's chest, I know that it's sitting in G2. So I'm going to come into G2, and it's about just over halfway across, and it's about there, and I'm going to draw my line across, and it doesn't come all the way to the end, so I'm going to come there. Now I can see from this that I've come a little bit too high, so I'm going to make that correction as early as I can. I now know that it intersects G3 about this far up, so I'm now going to be able to get an accurate measurement, and I'm going to go throughout the drawing using this method, and this is really going to just help me find the sizes and the shapes and the placement of objects. It's a really cool method to use, very simple. You don't need any swanky equipment or anything that's very difficult to get hold of. One thing that I would say is very important is try and get yourself an 18 centimetre ruler. This is 1.5 feet long, and this just means that if you're using A4 paper, in this case I'm using A4 paper here, that it's longer than the sheet of paper, so I'm not going to have to do, I'm sure you can cast your mind back to being at school and you're trying to draw a line across a full A4 side of paper, but you've only got the short ruler, so you do half of it and then you have to pull the ruler across, and you end up getting yourselves into all kinds of situations that we can avoid if we have an 18-inch ruler. The second method that I'm going to show you requires a piece of equipment that I'm sure some of you will have seen. Maybe this is new to some of you again. So this method is called the divider method, or the portional divider method. And what I'm going to use for this is I'm going to use this tool, this implement. It looks like a compass. The only difference is it's actually got two pointed ends instead of a pencil at one end. So what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to find some measurements. Now what I've done with both pictures is I've found the midpoint, so I've drawn across showing me the center on both pieces of paper. Now the only downside with this method is you're going to have to translate the size of the drawing exactly the same as in your reference image, which I guess is similar to the grid method. But if you're working with a very small reference and you want to draw it bigger, this is going to be quite difficult to do. I will show you in another video how we can do that. There are ways in which we can transfer a smaller image and make it bigger, but for this demonstration today I wanted to try and keep things simple. So what I'm going to do, if I wanted to try and find where the top of Optimus's arm is coming to, so this area here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the portional divider, I'm going to put one point in the center, and I'm going to find where the top of that line comes to. I'm going to measure that, and then I'm going to place that onto my piece of paper, and I'm going to mark it out. So I now know that this mark that I've placed on my paper is in the same position as this here. If I wanted to come down and find where the end of this arm is coming to, so this area here, I'm going to measure that distance, place it onto my paper, and I'm going to mark that in. And I'm going to basically go around the drawing finding points that dissect vertical and horizontal lines, and then it's basically a dot to dot exercise that we go through after that. If we want to find a position, let's say this corner area here, where it isn't actually sitting on a vertical or a horizontal line, I need to make two measurements for this. So I'm going to find the distance on the horizontal, so I'm going to put the one end onto the line, and I'm going to put the other end as accurately as I can onto the corner that I'm looking for. And then for the initial measurement, I'm going to have to guess the height of this, because that's what I'm going to find next. So I'm going to place a dot down, and then the second one, I'm going to measure that. Now I've got my horizontal line. Oh, that was bang on. So my guess that time was spot on. So that point there now, by taking the two measurements, gives me that point. So I know that this and this are in exactly the same position. So let's say I wanted to find this line or this corner here now. I'm going to make two measurements again. So I'm going to make my, let's see if I can guess the height of this as well. And one thing that you notice is after you do this a while, your eye does become better at seeing where things are lying. So if I'm going to go there, let's say, I'm going to guess that it's around about there. Okay, so I've got my horizontal positioning. Now I'm going to measure the vertical. There and there. And was I bang on? Ooh, almost. So close. So that's where it is. So I would rub out this dot here. Now, these two lines, I'm just going to join them up. And I now know that this line is in exactly the same position as the side of the window on Optimus's chest there. So I would go throughout the drawing making these small measurements using my portional divider. You can get these from Amazon, eBay. You can get them from your local stationers. This cost me about £5. They're really useful tools. I would really recommend getting one of these and having a go at this method. This was a method that I discovered on YouTube videos probably 2 years ago now, and it's really helped me out. I've used it a lot, particularly with my realistic portrait drawings. So that's the portional divider method. And the third one, there's a lot of artists out there that would be turning in their grave if they saw me showing you this method, but I'm actually going to show you a method using what we call a light box. So this is a method of tracing. This is a Crayola light box. I got this a couple of years back. It turns a light on, and ultimately what we're going to do is we're going to put our reference image on the bottom, and we're going to put a piece of paper on the top. Now when I switch the light box on, I can't see every detail here, but what I can see is some basic shapes and outlines. So I can see that Optimus's thumb comes up here. I can see that the side of the hand comes around into this section of the paper here. Now, this isn't going to give me all of the detail inside here, so I am going to have to obviously freehand some of the details in. But what it does do is it makes sure that my actual character that I'm drawing here is the same size. He's sitting in the same angle. The major lines that I can see are all going to be in the correct place. Now, I would say have a go at this. I can remember as a child trying to find methods of tracing, and one way that I used to use was putting my reference image up against a window and then placing the paper on top of that, and it gives you the same idea. If you've got a nice sunny day, you can see through it. And I can remember spending hours tracing things when I was a child, and it just trains your eye to see things. I'm quite happy to freehand this. In actual fact, I'm going to draw this Optimus Prime in one of my next videos, and I'm going to freehand it. So I'll video the whole process just so that you can see it. Now, obviously the freehanding is not going to be absolutely spot on, but I'm confident enough now in my own ability that I can get it so that it looks as close as possible. But that's a really great method, so don't be afraid to go out and try tracing things if you're a beginner and you haven't done an awful lot of drawing before. It's a really great way to, like I say, train your eye just so that you can start to see things. Now, as I look at this, I would probably start by freehanding it. I'd look at this area here and then coming into the body here and getting some basic shapes. I've said before, as one of my tips that I like to use when I'm looking at a reference is to squint my eyes and just find some rudimentary shapes, so the squares and the rectangles, and get those plotted down first and then start to build the detail up. I hope those 3 methods have helped you. I hope that you haven't seen them all before. Let me know down below in the comments if there's any of these methods that you use or you have used before. If there's something that's completely new that I've shown you, that's fantastic. I've made loads of mistakes in the past being an artist, and I just want you guys to learn from those mistakes quicker than I did. So why would you spend 6 months of your art time learning a method that actually probably not going to serve you in the long run? So learn from my mistakes. I'm making mistakes as we go along. I'm still learning. I'm currently trying to master coloured pencils, which is very tricky for me because I'm sure some of you are aware that I'm actually colourblind. So to use these different colour tones for skin tones and hair tones, I'm finding it very difficult, but I love to push myself. I don't believe in not being able to do something. I believe that we can all do pretty much anything we put our mind to. So I'm trying to master that. I'll show you some of the progress that I've made in some videos in a couple of days' time. But like I say, I hope these have helped you. If this is your first time coming to my channel, thank you so much for visiting. I hope it's been insightful to you. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much, guys. It means an awful lot to me. I'm having great fun with the channel. I'm doing request videos at the moment, so if there's something you'd like me to draw for you, or possibly a new technique you'd like to learn, then just drop me a comment down below. You can also get hold of me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. The links to all of those are down below in the descriptions. I'm having a load of fun with the channel. It's really taking off at the minute, so thank you guys so much. Every comment, like, share, subscription means an awful lot to me, so thank you so much for that. I think we're about to the end of that. They're the 3 methods that I would suggest you going and having a practice with. I hope you've enjoyed the video as much as I have done making it, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Thank you so much for your support. Have a great day. Hit subscribe, smack the notifications button, follow me on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter.